welcome to my home. Thank you for joining me for another live edition of Talk of the Crown, my weekly Royal Reviewer talk show, where it is over to you. It is basically a question and answer session. I do have a few things outlined that I'd like to speak to you about, but over the last few weeks, you guys have pretty much covered everything that was on my list anyway in your questions. So please feel free to ask away. I'll say hello to those of you in the live stream in a moment. For those of you watching on catch up, please feel free to leave a comment as well in the comment section, and that it might spark a topic for me to talk about in an upcoming video in the week. So I do hope you have enjoyed my videos and that you have had a fantastic week. So hello to everyone already in the room. I can see James, Sharona, Betsy, Kate, Carol, Not Quite Royal, Lauren, Christine, and I think there's, yeah, you're all there. So thank you very much for joining. Right. Not Quite Royal says, Elliot, thank you for the Etsy links. You posted such beautiful pieces. Right. So for those of you who don't know, I did make a community post because I've received a lot of questions over the past few weeks because I have upped my jewelry game. As you can see, I am bedecked. I'm almost Queen Mary-esque in my layers of pearls and all the rest of it. In fact, I think at one point I may as well just come in as a big walking pearl. So people have been asking me where I get my royal replicas from. The majority of the jewelry that I wear are royal replicas, apart from a few family pieces, such as this string of pearls, this brooch here. I'll go through all of what I'm wearing today in a moment. So I provided you with an Etsy link. Now I have popped the link in the description box of this video. Now it is to my wish list. So this is my own personal private wish list. Although that's not stopping any of you from purchasing something for me if you'd like in terms of a way of a tip. However, this is my own personal list that I look at for me to buy things. So I've popped a whole list of really incredible royal replicas. Some of them are very expensive. In fact, I would say the first royal replica that I purchased was probably about 8 years ago. And it was a tiara. It wasn't this tiara, but it was a tiara. And they were retailing at about, £25, £30. Now, for the same royal replica tiara, some of them you're talking upwards of £175, £400. They have really rocketed. So I do feel like I've made quite a good investment. A lot of my tiaras were bought off eBay or Amazon, sold them for a time. But I do think at the moment, currently, Etsy do a lot of really different royal replicas. A lot of them on my list I don't have, so these are ones that would be fantastic to highlight and show on the channel. So do go take a look. Like I say, they're ranging from all different prices. If anything piques your interest, then you can search for the name of it in your Etsy. It'll pull up and you'll be able to buy it for yourself. So I just thought I'd provide a bit of a service. But yeah, basically, royal replica jewelry has really grown as an industry. So I'm quite glad that I got in there early. So if you want to take a look, do feel free and take a look. Not Quite Royal says, still can't get over the military horses running through London yesterday. I do believe they were the household cavalry. Something spooked them. I think it was a building work. Something dropped from height and it spooked the horses. Now, when you are working with, and essentially these are companions, to anyone who's sort of, army based, animals, horses in particular are a companion. So you're working with real life, emotions and feelings, and animals and horses have those emotions and feelings too, and they can get spooked. So although these horses are very highly trained, occasionally something can happen that perhaps annoys that they haven't been trained for, like a building material dropping from a great height. It spooked them. I think the household cavalry did the best that they possibly could to protect the horses, protect the public, and to get those horses back to medical treatment, to veterinary treatment as soon as possible. The horses, unfortunately did kick off their riders or mounts or steed, whatever you want to call it. And a lot of, was it 2 or 3 of them bolted, and they were running through the streets of London until they calmed down and were sort of brought back in. They did get injured. Some of them, I think two of the horses got sort of really injured. We had those horrific images of a white horse, with blood gushing down its from its chest and legs, which was a pretty harrowing scene. So I think a lot of animal lovers will feel a great sense of, sadness that happened. But it can happen. Like I say, when you are working with, live animals, anything can happen. Fortunately, they were brought back under control, and they have been having veterinary treatment. I think maybe even an operation as well. I did hear rumblings of. I'm not quite sure whether both of them had operations or whether it was just one, but there has been operations. So we have our fingers crossed, our bejeweled fingers crossed, for a speedy recovery. Right, whilst we're still early on the subject of jewellery, I will run through what I'm wearing today. So we have the Tech Crescent tiara, one of my favourites. I do love it. It hasn't been worn in recent years with members of the royal family, and I was hoping that it might make, well, I hope it might make an appearance at some point. We do know that the royal family has many jewels that have kind of disappeared over centuries, and they haven't made a reappearance. Now, we have seen some jewels making a reappearance on Queen Camilla. Of course, we saw Catherine wearing the Strathmore Rose tiara, which was really nice to see come out of the vault. So I'm holding out hope that this tiara might come out. Now, this is a really good replica of that tiara. I'm wearing my grandmother's long strand of pearls, my grandmother's sort of simulated opal, and I'm wearing a kind of replica collet necklace, diamond collet necklace, supposed to be reminiscent of the coronation necklace. And of course, I have the Australian wattle brooch, which has kind of hints of yellow. So I thought I'd match the yellow with the yellow of the shirt. And then, of course, my favourite ring, my favourite royal replica ring, the aquamarine ring that was formerly owned by Princess Diana. We're not going to mention whose trotter it resides on currently. Let's not even go there. So hello to everyone who is just joining. I hope you've all had a fabulous week. Christine says his tiara fell off. Whose tiara? Whose tiara fell off? Oh, about me being late, my tiara fell off. Yes, I was having. I keep disconnecting for some reason. This does happen occasionally with live streams. Right, do I think the king may change things with the horses after yesterday? I think the king may change things with the horses after yesterday's incident. No, and to be honest, although the army is sort of, the king is head of the king or queen is head of the armed forces. It will be the armed forces, the high ups in the armed forces that would have any say really on how on if things are implemented, if there are changes. I don't really think they could have. I think this is just a freak accident. Like I say, I touched on this. You can train and you can prepare the horses for all different sounds, and I am sure they will have been trained for explosions and all that kind of thing. But there are some running from a height that's from a building site. So no, I don't think that things will change. I don't really see how things could change unless you literally don't have them at all. But then that is what that's what they're for. They're ceremonial horses. So yes, no, I don't think there will be a change. I think they did everything that they possibly could do, and it was just a terrible event that happened that hopefully we won't see again. Sue M says, "Loved the palace posting their jam." Ooh, yes, it was definitely some shade. I'm gonna give a green fan flap for that. So I'm calling this the Jam Wars. It's the unofficial Jam Wars. It's almost like the Battle of Waterloo or or the Boston Tea Party or something of that nature. This is, royal wars on an epic jam-based level. My goodness, who would have thought we were talking about jam wars? But no, the royal family have not necessarily engaged in the jam wars. It's just something that Meghan's Rotten Orchard jam has kind of kicked up a fuss with. So, Meghan, as we know, is coming out with this jam. We've seen head nor tail of actual production of the jam. All we've seen is some of her jars that she's possibly handmade, a sample test batch with no label in terms of the ingredients or the nutritional information. The label was peeling. It's probably something that she printed off herself at home and got Archie to stick on with a Pritt stick. I mean, you know, or maybe a bit of blue tack. Maybe she got Lily on the blue tack. Anyway, the jars were just awful. She sent them out in baskets of lemons, of all things. So she is no way near production. However, this then spiked royal supporters, of which there are many, many, many more than support Ms. Harkle, um, who went and bought Highgrove jam. Now, of course, Highgrove jam is was originally sort of made by the Prince of Wales, then Prince Charles, now King Charles, for many, many, many years. But the interest level sparked, and rather than buying Meghan's rotten jam, royal supporters wanted to buy the King's jam, and not only the King's jam, but also Duchy Originals jam as well, which is kind of part of an endeavour that he created when he was Duke of Cornwall. Now Prince William is Duke of Cornwall. So, with regards to Highgrove, I did do a little bit of fact checking. Highgrove is the King's property for still owned by the Duchy of Cornwall, of which with it are basically his. So if you're buying Highgrove jam, you are supporting the king. If you're buying Duchy Original jam, you are supporting William, and to a lesser extent the king as well, I suppose, seeing as he set it all up. And Buckingham Palace got in on the jam wars. They posted a little update on their jam. So just posted a little advert saying, hey, we've got jam for sale. So I'm sure people are going to rush out and now buy Buckingham Palace jam, which of course aids the royal. Any sales from the Buckingham Palace shop go to maintaining the royal collection, which is held in trust by the sovereign on behalf of the nation. So it's almost, if you purchase something from Buckingham Palace, it's almost like giving back to charity. If you buy, Highgrove, it kind of like goes back into maintaining everything. So it's almost like giving to charity. So you can buy that jam and eat it guilt-free. You can have a safe conscience, my loves. Whereas if you buy Meghan's rotten jam, if ever it comes out, I say if ever, then it just goes to line her pockets. And that is the difference. When people are screaming, oh, double standard, double standard. Well, doesn't the king sell jam? Doesn't William sell jam? Well, yes, they do. But the difference is it goes towards, maintaining collections on behalf of the nation, or it kind of goes back into like charity pots. It doesn't necessarily go towards their own financial gain. And with regards to the Duchy of Cornwall, that is government sanctioned. In fact, the Duke of Cornwall, now Prince William, is expected by law to run the Duchy of Cornwall effectively to make a profit, to provide an income to the heir for the heir to the throne. This is legally sanctioned. It's a duty. It's expected of William. So he is sanctioned by law almost to run the Duchy of Cornwall. And of course, every Duke of Cornwall wants to make their mark, wants to make it profitable. And then just go to like, don't think Prince William is spending all the profits on buying flash cars and swank. No, no, no. Prince William has to his official engagements. Remember, he supports himself and his family. So when George, Charlotte, and Louis eventually come to do royal duties, William will be funding their charitable endeavours and his own and Catherine's from the Duchy of Cornwall, which is very, very different to Harry and Meghan. So beware of those people that call double standards. And I think Angela Levin got into a little bit of a spot of bother with interviews of late. I think she sort of buzzed out of a what news? GB News, one of the UK news networks. She got into a bit of a fluster. Now, I think I agree with most things that Angela Levin says, but where Angela Levin gets her knickers in a twist a little bit is she doesn't have the comeback. She doesn't have the justification for her thoughts and her opinions and the things that she knows to be fact on the tip of her tongue ready when she's challenged. So for example, if I was on, one of these news shows and I gave an opinion, for example, about Harry and Meghan, I would expect and be prepared for one of the hosts to challenge me on that view and that opinion. So I would have in my head ready, well, if I'm going to say this, then I need to be able to back it up, which is what I do on this channel. Everything that I say, I can back up with a comeback if somebody challenged me on it. Where Angela Levin falls down is that she hasn't got a comeback or a justification for the things that she's saying. I think what she's saying is true and correct, I might add, but she hasn't got, a quick-witted reply for that. And I think she needs to, because she does have a lot of value to add to the Harry and Meghan debate, of course. But she just needs to be ready and prepared to be challenged. I wouldn't take umbrage that I was being challenged. So yes, I would expect to be challenged, to be quite honest, because that's what good. And explain her points even further. I think we're having a few disconnection issues as well. Right, I'm going to kind of zip down to the bottom. JB says Angela is a bit older and she does get flustered. Processing slows down with age. But then that's all with preparation. Have some flashcards ready with some points to, you can just look down to. I just think it's just be a bit more prepared for these interviews because, like I say, she does have a lot of really I mean, she's been on the royal beat for, for decades, decades and decades and decades. She has a lot of really valuable information to bring to the table. The same as Lady C. I mean, Lady C has been, writing royal books for a very, very long time. Now, whether you agree with Lady C or not, she has a wealth of royal knowledge to bring to the table. So I would just say be prepared. That's all. Lauren says, if Megs is so pro-women, why is it that she isn't helping the women and children of African Park? Well, I touched on this a little bit last week. I think the same kind of question came up, but it was more directed at Harry. Why isn't Harry doing or saying anything about African parks? And I'm not going to rehash what I said there. But with regards to Meghan, Harry and Meghan do like to think of themselves as a team. And of course, Meghan is supposed to be, as you correctly said, all for the rights and an advocate of women, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But Meghan is quite selective in where she does it. Fit into the category of who she wants to support. Now, yes, there was a huge opportunity with Africa Parks for both Harry and Meghan to come out and say something, and they chose not to, which is very interesting. I think it tells a tale. It demonstrates, what do they say? Actions speak louder than words. It demonstrates where actually their loyalties do lie, where their interests do lie, and I don't actually think it is in Africa. Meghan and Harry are so, we love Africa and all the rest of it. When the push comes to shove, they haven't got anything to say about Africa, where, she could actually make a mark and say something. She's chosen not to. Um, Carol says, my cats will have the best cat food, not her rubbish. Oh, I wouldn't even feed my cats her jam, or anything that she produces for that matter. Not Quite Royal says the royal family also doesn't sell their royal wardrobe and keep the money for themselves, unlike the Montecito horror. No, there are strict rules, and I think when Meghan was a member of the royal family, well, the working royal family, she would have not have liked those rules. You cannot just, keep things without it being recorded as an official gift. They're not yours. They are, possessions of the state. Yes, with a gift, you can use it, you can wear it for your lifetime. But basically, if it's a gift given on a state visit, or if it's something, you know, gifted in general, it's recorded as a gift. It's not actually yours. You can use it. I mean, no one's going to want to wear something of that nature. So, pretty much, you can pretty safely say that it is yours and you can keep it. But officially, it belongs to the state. It's a gift that you have acquired when you have been representing the country, if you like. I don't think Meghan would have got on with that at all. And that's probably one of the reasons why she didn't want to remain in the royal family. Private Pirate, I like the name, says if she tries to sell pet food, a lot more people are going to find out about her abandonment of Bogart. Harry's abuse of polo ponies and Guy's two broken legs. We will make sure of that. Well, the whole Bogart thing was I found it strange at the time. Now he was uh, I'm not sure if he's still alive, but at the time I think I keep coming in and out. But we'll get through this. I will stay on, even if we are being disconnected occasionally. So I think some people are even saying that maybe Bogart didn't get on very well with Harry, and maybe that's the reason. Maybe she ditched Bogart over Harry. I mean, that's pretty sickening, really, to be quite honest. Opal says you've become so biased over the years. How do you sleep at night? And this is this is a point in case going back to Angela Levin, she needs to be prepared for difficult questions. Opal, I can answer you in a heartbeat. I have not become Harry and Meghan. They are the ones that have changed. Their words, actions, and deeds influence how people think and feel about them. So, in the beginning, when they first came out, I had no problem with Meghan. I had no problem, that she was of biracial descent. I've chronicled all of this on my channel since 2015. Um, all royal life. Meghan was universally accepted by British people. There were some people who spoke out, but the majority of people supported Meghan. Where it all went sour was their own actions and deeds. I mean, we had a royal photographer. Now, we're not talking a journalist, we're talking just a photographer who said that Harry's demeanor and attitude completely changed when he started dating Meghan. Gone was the happy go lucky chappy. Then they started doing something like, ignoring an invite to Balmoral to spend time with the Queen, and instead saying Archie was too young, and then going off, uh, then going off on Elton John's private jet to wherever his home is. It all started to go sour. Then, obviously, when they left, they did it in a way that I thought was very rude and abrupt and abrasive. Then came Oprah whilst Prince Philip was passing away. Then came Spare. Now, don't forget, Spare was supposed to be released whilst Queen Elizabeth was still alive. So, and he knew that Queen Elizabeth wasn't in particular good health. She only had a matter of during the last moments of her life. Completely unforgivable. So, if my opinion has changed about Harry and Meghan, it certainly isn't because I have become biased, it's because of their own actions, words, and deeds. See, you have to be able to back up what you say. Tooth Fairy says this whole jam thing is to deflect from the surrogacy the Harkles use. Right, let's get on to the surrogacy. So, as we know, I mean, I have no, I'm fine with surrogacy. So surrogacy can help a lot of families have children who couldn't otherwise have children. So the act of surrogacy, I am not going to criticize. What I will say is, why hide it if you have gone through surrogacy? There's no need to hide it. It's not something that you should feel ashamed of. It's not something that you should shy away from. In fact, if you were going through that, if you had fertility issues, it could actually you could actually highlight an issue and you know make it more publicly acceptable. You could actually speak out and help people, a little bit like how the King and Catherine have come out and spoke about their health issues with their cancer diagnosis. But in UK law, we have to be in the line of succession, of course, it mentions of body. Now, traditionally, before surrogacy was ever a thing, of body meant birthed. You have to have been birthed by the mother. And I'm not going to get into all the things about who can be mothers these days. We know many people can be mothers these days, but traditionally, in hundreds of years ago, when the rules were made, born of body. So a potential reason for hiding a surrogacy could have been because they wanted any children to be in the line of succession, and there to be no doubt about that. Um, but I think in the modern context, what could happen is that law could be redefined, and that would not necessarily be up to King Charles. I don't think he could necessarily just issue letters patent. I think it could actually be sparked by the government of the day. So currently, the Conservative Party, we have elections coming up in September. Well, we think September. Sometime this year, we've got elections coming up. And whatever government is in power could actually turn around and say, we are going to redefine of body to bring it up to modern sensibilities and standards, and actually say that as long as an embryo is created from the father's sperm and the mother's egg, then that is of their body. And they could actually do away with the birthing part. But that is potentially for the future. As it currently stands, if Harry and Meghan were found to have used a surrogate, then Archie and Lilibet would be excluded from the line of succession. And I think that could potentially be the reason why, if there has been a surrogacy, then it could have been hidden. Now, let's talk Moonbumps for a moment. I avoided the sordid topic of Moonbumps for a very long time, and I'm perfectly happy to talk about it now. Because it is a possibility. I've seen the videos, just like everyone else, of Meghan's stomach while she was pregnant with Archie, moving from side to side. I've seen her squatting in high heels. I've seen the bump crumple up. I've seen when she sort of stood up, it kind of popped and moved. I mean, there was all kinds of unnatural movements, shall we say, regarding the stomach area that didn't typically sit with, a heavily pregnant woman. We're not even talking the early stages of pregnancy. We're talking the later stages of pregnancy. So I can see why there is a call to find out, whether or not surrogacy was used. And I think Lady C is pushing for the royal family to say one way or the other whether or not a surrogate was used. And therefore, if a surrogate was used, to uphold the rules and the laws that are in place to remove Archie and Lilibet from the line of succession. But like I said, be warned, because it could also prompt the government of the day, even if the palace didn't want to actually redefine and update that law to include an embryo of the father's sperm and the mother's egg. If, of course, it was a surrogacy and it was someone else's egg, then that would completely exclude them from the line of succession. Lauren says, what do we all think of Princess Charlotte's joke? Also, well, it's I think when William was out and he sort of, he was visiting a school in the West Midlands, actually, not a bazillion miles away from where I live, and he was visiting school children, and of course, William and Catherine and other royals have divulged information about their own children on visits of this nature. So it was nice to see him talking about Princess Charlotte and kind of showing that she has a sense of humour, that she has a favourite joke. And yeah, it seemed like he was having a really good time. He apologised for Catherine not being there. I don't think he needed to apologise. We all understand why she's not at these engagements. We have no update, by the way, on her treatment or the King's. We've sort of heard nothing for a while, so we can hope, fingers crossed, bejeweled fingers crossed, that no news is good news. But it's nice to see William out and about, the Prince of Wales, doing some engagements. I think he went to this one. Remember, engagements are long planned, and I don't think he wanted to let the children down. Uh, and seeing their smiling faces was a delight. So yes, and it's nice to hear a little bit of um, Princess Charlotte news. Not Quite Royal says about the horses. It was a freak accident, never happened before, and likely to never happen again. Never say never, but I think the horses and the riders, the household cavalry, are very, very well trained, and I think we saw the training come into action, even though there was an incident. Christine says Prince Edward looked great for Anzac Day. Yes, now of course the Edinburghs are picking up some of the slack, taking on more important duties. Prince Edward always looks good. Now I think Prince Edward, Prince William looks a lot like Prince Edward, especially when Prince Edward was younger. If you look at comparison pictures, they're kind of, they've got the same shaped face. They just look very, very similar. So yes, Prince Edward always has a very warm-natured personality. When he's on these engagements, I've seen him whipping back the the curtains of the plaques, and he always does it with a bit of a flourish. So tries to make something that would otherwise be typically a little bit dull more exciting, and I really, really like that. That's kind of his showmanship coming through. Of course, he fancied himself as a director and a producer, and kind of being in front of the camera a little bit as well. So he definitely has an air of the theatrics about him, which I appreciate. Absolutely. Right, I'm going to go back down to the questions now. Um, Christine says Harry and Meghan never talk about those kids, and no one has ever seen them. We haven't seen as much, obviously, as we have of the Wales children. Um, so yeah, I mean, they are kind of, I suppose, claiming that it's for privacy reasons. But what will be contrived, of course, is if when Meghan tries to flog, for example, children's clothes on American Riviera Orchard, if she uses Archie and Lilibet, or has them kitted out in American Riviera Orchard clothes and then happens to be papped, with the kids wearing the clothes, then it's going to look very contrived. It's going to look like, well, okay, you'll choose, and it is a choice. You'll choose. It is their choice. I'm perfectly accepting that it's their choice to make, but it's not going to look very good if they keep them from the cameras and then only bring them out when they've got something to sell, something to monetize. Pimping out your children is not a good look. And I'm going to predict that that potentially is what they could do. Beverly says, brilliant 30-part series on YouTube called Crown and Country, made by the Duke of Edinburgh in about 2000. I think I remember watching that at the time. And if I remember correctly, it is a good one. James Metaphor says the Duchess of Gloucester being made a Dame of the Garter. There have been some appointments. I'll talk about that now. That was on my list. So there have been some, I suppose, within the royal family, their titles are, of course, their highest accolade, if you like. But there are lots of different honours, even within the royal family, that members can be gifted. Some of them are in the gift of the king or the queen. the sovereign, if you like, and some of them are recommended by the sovereign and in the gift of the government. So the Princess of Wales has received a fairly unique honour from the King, do excuse me, in recognition of her years of public service after being appointed to the Order of the Companions of Honour. So she's been made a royal companion of the organisation, which was founded by King George V in 1917. I've got some notes in front of me so I don't miss anything. To recognise outstanding achievements in the arts, sciences, medicine, and public service. So she's definitely, I think qualifies under the public service. And I would probably say a lot of her work with early years as well, kind of somewhere fits into that. So that is a very high accolade, a very high honour bestowed by the king. And I think, that will be making the monster of Montecito absolutely fuming that she hasn't got one either. Prince William has also, I do believe, I'll start that again because I think I cut out. Queen Camilla is to be Grand Master and First or Principal Dame Grand Cross of the Most Excellent Order. Apologies, I've still got allergies. Of the British Empire, which is a fairly traditional appointment for the spouse of the monarch. So, sort of nothing to see there necessarily. And Prince William, as I said, has been appointed to the Great Master of the Most Honourable Order of the Bath, following in the footsteps of his own father when, of course, Charles was Prince of Wales. So that was established by King George I in 1725 and is believed to originally date back to the 8th century, so a very, very, very old and esteemed. Now, these appointments were made to kind of celebrate or mark St. George's Day, so I hope everyone had a really, really lovely St. George's Day. Lauren says, in terms of the children, I agree their life should be private till they hit 18. Archie and Lilibet, like I say, it's up to Harry and Meghan. It's their choice. But it's going to look very conceited, very contrived if they sort of hide them away and then only bring them out when they've got something to monetize. That's my only thought. And with regards to William and Catherine, again, people screaming double standards, double standards. Didn't William and Catherine just release a 6th birthday photo of Prince Louis? What about his privacy? Well, the difference is that they are our working members of the royal family. They are going to be our future members of the working royal family, if all goes to plan. So, the public do want to know and see and watch them grow up. Now, I'm not saying we need Netflix documentary cameras down their throats 24/7. It's not Big Brother that we're after, but we do, like and expect a photo to celebrate a birthday, or a Christmas photo and a Christmas family photo, or to see them at set piece royal events like Trooping the Colour, blah blah blah, or if they're been taken on a foreign tour, that there might be certain occasions where they're brought out and we get to see them grow up, first days of schools, first days of universities, blah blah blah, which is perfectly fine. Harry and Meghan are not doing the same thing, but that is their choice. Lauren says, can't see anyone's medical records being published. Well, no, I don't think if anything ever came out, it would be a leak of medical records. I think it would be somebody just saying something, a comment, maybe a former staff member, a disgruntled ex-employee, someone that wants to shoot Harry and Meghan down. Perhaps people are waiting for the right time to do this. Ingrid says, I think the point is not the surrogacy, but as you say, can be changed by the government. The issue is her lying. They both lying to the public, like the whole world is a bunch of it. Yes, I have got no issue with surrogacy whatsoever. Lots of people in myself's situation, 2 men, 2 women, whatever, need to go through some kind of process to have a child. So I'm not against surrogacy whatsoever. In fact, like I say, I think it can, create really wonderful, amazing families. However, the issue, you're quite right, the issue would be in the lying about it, the deception, the deceit. Whereas otherwise, Miss Harkle could have used it as a platform to celebrate surrogacy as a wonderful, beautiful thing. Um, and the lying kind of got in the way, if you like, if indeed that is true. Beverly says at the moment the surrogate mother in a dispute over a child has the strongest legal claim no matter whose egg is used. I mean, different rules and different regulations apply in different countries, but certainly if a surrogate was used, the current UK law, and I can talk about what I know from the UK side. By the way, surrogacy in the UK is altruistic. Only expenses can be claimed and they have to be justified. It has to actually go through a court at the end. So in the UK, there isn't a case where a surrogate can demand $30,000, $100,000, whatever it might be, that other countries do. In the UK, it has to be reasonable expenses and usually falls somewhere between £13,000 and £20,000. So it's altruistic in approach, but the current UK law, I think they are looking at changing it, is that when a child is born, on the birth certificate, it has to be the surrogate mother's name, and if they are married, it has to be their partner. So if a surrogate was used, then it should be the surrogate mother's name down and not even Prince Harry. It would be someone else. Then what you do is you apply to the courts for a parental order, and then months later, up to 6 months later, the birth certificate is changed and the parental order is made so that Harry and Meghan's name, for example, would then go back on the birth certificate. But initially, under current laws, it would be the surrogate and her partner if she had one. So there we go. That's just to clear it up. Not Quite Royal says the irony of Lady C calling for anyone's medical records to be made public is not lost on me. Yes. Obviously, different people have different checkered medical histories. But yes, I think Lady C's level of interest is just to kind of, I suppose, find out once and for all whether or not there was any deception going on. Lauren says everything they do is manipulation to others to sell for self-gain. Well, that I agree with. Not Quite Royal says exactly. They did all this while Queen Elizabeth was still alive. It was so cruel. Harry wanted Spare to come out whilst Queen Elizabeth was still alive. Can you imagine bombarding, harassing, the amount of stress causing your own grandmother in her mid-90s? I mean, it just doesn't bear thinking about. What a cruel, wicked man Harry has become. And then, worst thing was, he postponed the book after she passed away, just so he could get some extra chapters out of that. I mean, it was just absolutely disgusting. It really was. Absolutely disgusting. Private Pirate said, another YouTuber went back and found Markle's Instagram puppy pictures of Bogart. He was only 4 or 5, but she claimed he was too old. Well, in that case, perhaps the rumours are true that he didn't get on with Harry. Timber Dan says it's not about skin colour or race, I would hope anyway. It's about the content of character. Exactly. People were willing in the UK to give Meghan a chance. Many people thought that it was a breath of fresh air and it was a good and positive thing to have, something different brought to the table. However, like I say, their own actions and deeds and characters came through, and that is what soured it. Not anyone else, not anyone else's fault. They soured it for themselves. Not Quite Royal says the whole world was excited by their marriage and she threw it all away. She did indeed. Right, I'm going to scoot all the way down to the bottom. Um, Jolene says, altruistic or no pregnancy is a huge ordeal to the body before, during, and after, not to mention potential loss of wages. Yes, in the UK, I do believe the surrogate has to plan in advance for potential loss of earnings, and it all goes down onto an agreement if you are with a surrogacy agency. And basically, you have to then keep receipts and justify those costs and expenses. However, in the UK, we have very, very good workers' rights. So even if someone is pregnant as a surrogate, they would have maternity leave uh, for that child. So in the UK, I think it is a little bit different to other countries. We have a lot more rights and protections, and workers' rights are very, very big in the UK. So yes, Lauren says only reason no one's medical signed it was because they did not want anyone to know where he was born. Well, there was a lot of secrecy, shrouded mystery in Archie's birth. We had the whole kind of that rat race of trying to dodge the press, and I keep cutting out something going on. I can't see a storm, but anyway, we will try and soldier on for king and country. I was going to say queen and country then. Beverly says, oh, hang on. Rediscover locations with Sharona says, just seen the first official portrait of the Danish Queen Mary is wearing the order with her husband's face. Why is it they can get their orders changed in 3 months, but the UK order has been now 19 months? Well, I quite agree. I think it's been a very, 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 very long time. However, our orders are, created, they are handcrafted, created by real diamonds and jewels. Real miniature portraits have to be painted, and there's not just one of them, there's multiple of them to give out. So I think it does take a lot of time to get it right. However, 19 months is a little bit pushing it, I have to say. And most people are getting a little bit impatient. But we haven't had an occasion, in recent months, a state occasion to actually kind of, showcase it, to kind of, to do a suitable reveal. I think they'll be waiting now until the next planned state banquet, which I don't know how long it will be before the king is up to it. And I think that they will wait, obviously, until Catherine is ready to come back. So I think we're going to have to do a little bit of longer waiting, I'm afraid. Timberdan says, it's quite sad because Harry and Meghan could have been a huge contribution to the royal family, but they decided otherwise. And the Commonwealth, too. They, in terms of work, they were doing really good. But it was all the personal things behind the scenes, the bullying allegations that were supposed to be going on, and I do believe that there could be more due to come out surrounding the bullying. One of Meghan's former staff members has finally kind of started to talk about it. Samantha Cohen came out, whereas previously she has remained completely tight-lipped. She's began talking about it. So she didn't reveal terribly too much in an interview. However, the lips are becoming unsealed, shall we say. So I expect there to be a little bit more coming out about that. And she would know because of first-hand experience. What she did actually say was that they had hired someone to replace Samantha Cohen. They took that person to Africa when they were in Africa, and the person left mid-tour. They actually said, we don't want the job. And, what could possibly have driven them to that? I think, the way that Harry and Meghan speak to people, interact with their staff, it must have put them off. And I think that just about says it all, that member of that new member of staff didn't even want to try even a trial period with Harry and Meghan. They must have seen something completely abhorrent to just literally walk out of the job. Now, we know that there are some new communications guys being hired by Harry and Meghan, one UK based, one US based. And I don't suspect that they will last very, very long. They've got a big job ahead of them to communicate for Harry and Meghan, because as we know, Harry and Meghan only like to communicate on their own terms. And, that's not how communication works. Communication is give and take. Communication is a conversation, whether it be verbal, written, email, smoke signals, whatever it might be. You have to have a rapport. And that is what good PR and communication is in the industry. You have to have a good rapport. And when Harry and Meghan dismiss half of the British press off the bat, we're not speaking to those nasty tabloids just because those nasty tabloids told the truth about us that we don't want to hear. That's not good, effective communication. They ignore the advice of any of their advisors anyway. So there's no point. Not Quite Royal says, why is it taking so long to bestow Catherine the Order of the Garter? I believe Queen Elizabeth granted Camilla into the order not long after her marriage to Charles. Well, I personally think it's because there's a lot going on. And of course, maybe that could have come this year. But with Catherine's current issues and situation, perhaps they're holding off, until she's a little bit more better to do that. CCC says two illegitimate Invisi kids illegally in line to the succession. Meg birthed a kid, so not entitled to be there. I think this is what we want to clear up. What we want to clear up is once and for all, are they illegitimate in terms of being in the line of succession? The one thing I don't want to do is to say that children born of surrogates are illegitimate children. That would be a horrible thing to say, to a child born of surrogacy. But what we are talking about here, and I will be very specific with this, we are talking about the rules set out, the legal rules and stipulations set out regarding the line of succession. It is very specific. It is very archaic. It is very old fashioned. It's not modern. It's not up to date. And it does say very specifically born of body. And the traditional born of body is birthed by the mother. So, I don't want to upset anyone who has used a surrogate or has been born of surrogacy. I am just talking about it very factually, matter of factly, for this particular situation. Lauren says, same with the picture we got for Prince Louis's birthday. I feel that was very kind of the Prince and Princess of Wales. I would not have done it after how the press have behaved. Well, when midnight came and, usually embargo is lifted at midnight of, the eve of a royal child's birthday, normally a photo has been submitted to the press association and then it's sort of distributed at midnight, ready for the morning social media rush or the morning papers. That didn't happen. So we all thought that maybe the Waleses had had enough of releasing photos, but one came in the morning. Now, I don't know why there was that delay, why there wasn't the usual embargo, not entirely sure. But the photograph itself was a lovely photo, showed Prince Louis happy, smiling, and he looked like he got bits of dirt on him, on his arm, bits of plant, he was lying on a rug. All the limbs and the fingers and everything seemed accountable for. I'm not really the best at zooming in and finding inconsistencies in photos. I'll leave that up to other people. But it looked like a fairly unedited photo. If it was edited, it was just a simple blur of the background. But you can get that effect by using photographic tricks anyway, whilst you're actually taking the photo to kind of blur out the background. So it's believed to have been a completely unedited photo, which I think was lovely to see. And I do think that they should adopt that kind of a policy, basically. Right, I'm zipping down all the way to the bottom. The Royal Brief says, can you imagine how bad it must have been for a member of staff to quit in the middle of a foreign tour? Absolutely. Something awful must have happened. You know, maybe it was surrounding the whole. Do you remember Archie in the fire, where you know he wasn't injured in a fire, but maybe I mean I'm assuming that was the tour that they were on about. Anyway, yes, something catastrophic must have gone on, and potentially by Meghan's rage. Lauren says, looks like there's going to be a big tour for the King and Queen at the end of the year. Things will be trying to be planned in the event that the King is able to do these tours. I definitely think, you know, big Commonwealth tours are needed because, you know, the King is of advancing years. You know, we're not talking Queen Elizabeth II when she came to the throne. You know, she could embark on a 6-month tour to pretty much see the majority of the Commonwealth in one foul swoop. You know, the King doesn't have quite that luxury. So I think it would be good, but the King's health has to be first and foremost consideration in all of this. So they can make plans, but until it actually happens, you know, we have to wait and see. Keeman says, absolutely, that entire Australian AU tour sounds like a nightmare for the staff. Didn't throw an African tour, I think it was. Anyway, Lauren says, let's hope for the best and for the King is well enough to go. Yes, exactly. Christine read that the King will attend Ascot. Planned. I would say that they are making plans, but never say never until it actually happens. Lauren says, I think the security issue is going to carry on for quite some time, which, like I've said before, I'm in two minds. But oh, you mean Harry's? I think that is dead in the water. Harry is not getting official entitled royal protection when he's in the UK. I think the arrangement will hold that is currently in place, which is basically that Harry must inform the police or the authorities that he is coming. They will assess on a case by case basis whether or not he needs escorting from the airport or wherever he's going, and it will be done that way. Now that you know still gives Harry a level of protection that most people think he probably shouldn't even have that. However, that is the working arrangement in place currently, and I think that that will probably stand. Katie says she got the biggest bully in a... It keeps disconnecting. They are coming out of the woodwork thick and fast. So I expect a slow drip feed of these 50 jam jars making their appearance onto social media. So be prepared. I think this is going to be a slow drip feed. How many jars do we still have left out there in the world? I'm not quite sure. What number are we up to now? Timberdan says the US is way behind the UK in many ways, excluding a handful of states. Well, different countries are different. In the UK, we do have lots of employment regulations and rights. You know, an employer, for example, cannot sack someone for being pregnant, or you know, there is maternity time off and maternity pay, and that even applies if it's a surrogate baby. He continues, I mean, the US government and many states still execute yet we've not had capital punishment of that nature has not been a thing in the UK for a very, very long time. Let's have a look. Lauren says, also sad news about Princess Beatrice's ex-partner. So sad it seems everyone is either ill or passing away. Yes, so Princess Beatrice's former partner, boyfriend, whatever you want to describe him as, has passed away, and Princess Beatrice is said to be, you know, bereft, really upset by this. Now, of course, Princess Beatrice went on to be happily married, but you know, I think if you know one of your ex-partners passed away, you probably feel a little something something. So, especially you know in the way. So yes, it's there are difficult times for people. Right, I think we are almost at the end of today's live chat. We made it through. If you've made it this far with all the different connection problems that we've had this week, then thank you so, so much. I really, really do thank you. Hopefully, there won't be any more connection issues for next week. We'll have to I'll try and take a look at what it possibly could have been. Right, I think I ran through all of the jewelry earlier on in the video, so I don't have to do that. What I will say and remind people is that if you want to shop some of the jewelry, I've put a huge collection on an Etsy wish list. So it's my Etsy wish list. So if you want to buy it for yourself, then find what you want, copy and paste what it is, put it into your own Etsy, and there you go. It will be. However, if you do fancy giving me a little tip and you want to see something worn in one of my videos, then you can purchase something from my Etsy wish list, and it will wing itself to me. And I do thank you in advance for that. You don't have to, of course, but thank you so, so much if you choose to, because I want to be bedecked like Queen Mary. In fact, Queen Mary was a magpie. She used to go round to people's houses, and if she saw something that she liked, she'd say, "I like that," and then they would be expected to give it to them, to give it to her. Anyway, I'm channeling my inner Queen Mary. So thank you so, so much for watching. I will be back, all being well, next week. So next Thursday, 6 p.m. UK. Thank you for watching. And of course, I will see you next time. So from me, mwah, to you all, and goodbye.